There's a new documentary playing in Rochester this week, and it's made by a local filmmaker. It's about a man with a one-of-a-kind collection he's been working on for more than five decades. It's playing tomorrow night at the Dryden Theater at George Eastman Museum. Filmmaker Matt White is here to talk about this, and I won't say the name. I'm going to let you explain it. Matthew White is here. Wonderful to have you in studio.
Wonderful to be here,
to promote this. House of, and I'll let you say it.
So it's an inside joke. It's House of Stronzo, but it's an inside joke, you know, to the man Pete Cecere, and the documentary is about him. And he collects folk art. So over his lifetime, he's collected, you know, 30,000 pieces of folk art. And his house right now in Virginia is filled with 5,000 pieces of folk art from floor to ceiling. But when I was filming him, you know, I realized that this doc was as much about his personality as it was about the folk art collecting.
You got to be a bit eccentric to have a house filled with all that stuff.
Yeah.
So when I said, Pete, what about House of Stronzo? Because Pete actually had Stronzo on his license plate in Virginia for years. And I said, what do you think of the title? And he goes, I love it. You know, and that's the way he talks. He goes, oh wow, I love it. You know.
There you go.
So folk art is a nice way of saying what?
So folk art. There's folk art and then outsider art, and folk art is kind of stuff that has some kind of legacy of value to kind of history. Outsider art is just an off-the-wall, you know, you could make the goofiest thing, you know, you could ever think of, and that would be outsider art. And he's basically, I know, he's just fascinated by the stuff, and he says, you know, he doesn't care about the value, the value of the art piece, you know. He says, I have stuff that, you know, he has stuff that's not worth anything from a, like a museum standpoint.
Right.
But then he has pieces that, you know, he had a whole wing, and we feature that in the documentary at the San Antonio Museum of Art. They had a whole wing called the Pete Cecere Wing, Passion Populaire, and they featured about like over 100 pieces that they thought had value.
Where is his house?
So it's in rural Virginia.
Okay.
And it's Woodville, Virginia, and it's this little town about 2 hours from Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And it's just filled with, you know, all this eccentric folk art and outsider art. And literally every space in his house is filled with it. When you go into the bathroom, you know, he has little figurines of people sitting on toilets. And, you know, it's every room you go in, that's his bedroom right there. And it's just filled with folk art.
Some people might call this stuff, you know, tchotchkes, like, you know, stuff that, you know, collectibles that just take up room. But to him, it's something totally different.
He calls these his kids. And he does have a real daughter, and she's not offended. But he calls these his kids. And, but I tell you, he, you know, he loves this stuff. And it really is incredible. I mean, I've met a lot of people doing what I do for a living, interviewing people, and he's one of the most eccentric, fascinating personalities I've ever met. And I told him that. I said, Pete, nobody talks like you.
What does he sound? I mean, does he have an accent? Is he from, like,
he's from
another?
Brooklyn.
So I was going to say, he's probably got a thick New York accent.
He's got that kind of, not a heavy one, but he's got a little bit of like a Brooklyn-style accent. And, of course, he's Italian. His family's Italian. And
it stands out in rural Virginia.
Yes, yes. Oh, he's, I mean, anybody, there's a joke, like the curator of the San Antonio Museum of Art has a, you know, soundbite in the doc where he goes, after I visit Pete, it takes me a week to get over it, you know? Because the thing about Pete is he can talk forever. And what's really very unique about this is I spent 7 days living at his house. So I lived at his house for 7 days. He hosted me as extra bedrooms, and he cooked all the meals. He's a great cook, and so I got to know him.
Okay.
Fantastic, because normally, you know, you never, as you know, get to spend that amount of time with somebody making a story about. So.
People can come and see you tomorrow, right? See the documentary?
Yeah, so tomorrow, George Eastman Museum, Dryden Theater, 7:30.
Okay.
They love the documentary, and they're hosting it, and we're going to have live music when people walk in with a composer. So.
Great, and you're going to be there.
I'll be there. Oh, yeah.
This is the film.
Thank you.
I want to know how he dusts. I'd love to ask that.